Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink, I have in sample form, and was provided by the wonderful, mysterious benefactor. It's by Pilot, it's from their Iroshizuku line, it's Yu-Yake. I'm sure I just murdered that, I apologize, I do not speak Japanese. There are some fanatical lovers of Iroshizuku inks. I've gotten a lot of flack for not loving them. The truth is, I haven't been wowed by them to the point where I find them worth the price. It's really just that simple. I can't justify to myself paying this much for these inks. It's really just that simple. Do I think the bottles are cool? Yes, I do. Do I think they're really friggin' heavy? Yes. I mean, it weighs almost 240 grams empty. Never mind with the ink in it. Never mind with the box. I mean, I buy almost all my pen stuff online, which means I gotta pay for this. I mean, yeah, you're getting a big old piece of glass, but I don't care about the glass. I know some people do. I've heard such great things about these bottles. I bought an empty bottle. As you can tell, I haven't used it yet. People like hate me. They want to burn me at the stake for not loving Konpeki. I just have another blue that's a bit more well behaved, nearly the same color, and like half the price. I'm happy with that. People love these inks. I don't mean to like offend your religion. I can't justify to myself buying them. That's it. That's it. That's that simple. I have other options I prefer. The end. Now, today's ink is an orange ink, and people absolutely love this ink. It's Yu-Yake. I'm going to have some problems with it, performance-wise, which is part of what leads to the can't justify paying for it thing. Now, these inks are mildly acidic. I don't think they're mildly basic. I think they're mildly acidic, if I remember correctly. And they're known for having great flow, bright colors, and this is a bright color. This is very bright orange. Yeah, so the two pens I used, I thought this would be appropriate. A Pilot pen. This is a 78G with a double broad. Of course, the broads, whether singular or double, in the 78Gs are actually stubs, so it's a nice stub. I thought that would help with the the shading, bringing out some of that. Also, this Retro 51 with a fine nib, and it's actually a fairly dry nib, so I thought that would be a nice contrast. Now, I don't have anything quite like this. Dogs are angry. So here's Yu-Yake. Here's Ackerman number 16 Orange Bovin. I know that's probably not how it's pronounced, but this is a much brighter orange. I also have Private Reserve Shoreline Gold, which is a bit softer the way this is, more than Bovin. But it's still not quite the same, neither of those are. Here's Noodler's Apache Sunset, which is somewhat similar, but a bit lighter, and I know from experience, shades a lot more. Here's Diamine's Blaze Orange, which is very similar for the most part, except a bit thinner. And then, last but not least, Diamine Autumn Oak, which is not quite the same, but sort of like the medium of this is close to the medium of that. Anyways, I thought I'd see what this ink can stand up to. So here it is against water, which pretty much broke it up. It's pretty much all gone. 1/3 bleach solution. It is absolutely gone, but turned pink. Like little bits of it turned pink, which is weird. Ammonia pen flush broke it up pretty well. And hydrogen peroxide absolutely got rid of it, which was somewhat amusing because it did better than the pen flush or the water. But yeah. Let's check out the chromatography. Now here's how you're supposed to do the chromatography. You can tell where the initial drop was if you look closely, and then you get this, I don't know, like a primrose yellow, and then this carnation pink a little bit, and then you go up into the orange, and then it looks a lot like Diamine Autumn Oak up at the top. And then I let it dry, which is not how you're supposed to do it. But pretty much the only thing that changed was that carnation-y yellow sort of condensed a bit more, and there's less pink up midway before the autumn oakiness. Alright, paper test, top down in density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Yes, there are 2 of them. Now I started with this, my Sayez paper that I love, but there were problems, and I was sure that something off was happening. So I decided to retest it. And I got essentially the same results. And since this one's more concise, we're going to do this one. There is some, I mean, it's a very bright orange, it's jovial. You do get some shading, but if I bring this in close, you'll see we get feathering. And we get a woolliness. And we get it in the writing. And, I mean, this is 90-gram paper. This is dense stuff. The fine took 7 seconds to dry. The broad took 16, but bear in mind, that's a stub, and those are downstrokes, so that smear, yeah. But considering, I mean, again, downstrokes and the size of the smear, 16 seconds, I guess, isn't too bad. But, I said there's some mild bleed, and actually, maybe it isn't that mild. Granted, this is the stub, for the most part. These 2 are. But that's the fine. And that's the fine. And that's the fine. And that's the fine. I mean, this is 90-gram paper. It's dense. I mean, maybe the slight acidity of the ink isn't playing well. I mean, all of this was the stub, and look at all of that nearly came through. And with the first test, we get the same. We get the feathering, we get the woolliness, we get the near bleed in spots, and again, not just in the stub. Yeah. Water test, it made a bit of a mess. It feathered, it exploded. Some of it is still there. It would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. Next up is Fabriano paper, which I've started using lately, and which, at least for me, is fairly accessible. I mean, we have a Fabriano store in the San Francisco airport. And you can find this paper in just about any, like, decent art supply store anywhere in San Francisco. It's a great paper. It's 85 grams per square meter. It's a bit more textured, and it can handle inks that sometimes Clairefontaine and Rhodia can't. In this case, this ink. Now, the fine nib took 5.5 seconds to dry. The 78G stub took 12. And here, if you see, you get a lot of shading, and it's really pretty. You get this depth of color. You get a mild halo effect. Finally, there's no feathering. I thought that maybe what's happening here could be considered feathering if my camera will ever focus, but it's not. It's just something about the texture of the paper, because it isn't steamroller smooth the way that Rhodia or Clairefontaine are. Sometimes it dries with this almost like a slightly textured outline, which I think is actually kind of pretty, but anyways. Yeah, finally there's no bleed, there's no feather, there's no spread, there's no echo, there's no sheen. It just works. This is a great pairing. This ink, this paper, looks great. Try it out. But, yeah, the water test, it's really, really gone, especially the fine. The fine is pretty much just obliterated. I can't talk today. Anyways, the broad put down more ink, so more remains, and I love that you can really tell which one was which. Now, again, the Rhodia, I started to have weird stuff going on, and I was sure that that meant that there was something wrong with the Rhodia. And to a degree, I was kind of right, so we're going to look at this tiny little piece of Rhodia, because it did slightly better on here. Oh. Yeah, did I say the dry time? Whatever. So the fine took 5 seconds to dry on here, the stub took 14. Here we do get shading, we do get a mild halo effect. You know, we get a brightness of color, but we do get some feathering. If we look at the A, get a bit of it there. Pretty much anywhere with the stub, we see some like mild feathering. It's, we don't really get bleed, but we get some stuff that like wants to come through. And again, it is the stub, but still, this is 80-gram paper, you know, and this is a stub. Usually stubs, because that edge, you know, drags the ink around. But yeah, water test, again, the stub put down more ink, so more remained. But I wrote test in the fine, and that's just utterly gone. Yeah, so next up we have Tomoe River paper. It's cream colored paper. It's known for drawing out dry times, but it also brings out sheen and highlights shading. And here we get that. I mean, here we get a lot of shading. We get this like shiny outline. I don't know if the camera will catch it, but it's shiny. This shiny outline in the halo and the scrubby. But yeah, dry times were definitely drawn out. I mean, the fine took 8 seconds to dry. Great, I'll take it. 22 seconds with the stub. I don't know. But again, that is a downstroke. Generally, stubs are a bit wetter on the downstroke. It's vibrant, but see, if we look here in the fine, it almost looks thin. It looks a little thin on here. Now, the stub looks great, but it puts down more ink. It's a bit darker. There's more to it. Yeah, I mean, it's generally quite well behaved. No spread. In the scrubby, it nearly wants to come through, and in a couple places, it looks like it wants to come through, but Tomoe River, being Tomoe River, just won't let it. This paper loves to let ink slide away when you add more water. That's kind of what happened here. The fine is really, really gone. But the stub, and I love how, again, you can tell which one's which, put down more ink, so more remains. Always nice to see. Now, for the next 3 tests, I just used the fine, except to write the name. Now, this is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. And as you can see, like, it lost some of its vibrancy, some of its brightness. It's still very much an orange, and noticeably an orange, but it lost that, I don't know, internal glow. I don't know, but the fine took 1.5 seconds, and as I say on here, it could be a lot worse. There is spread. You will most certainly see a difference in line width. I was expecting to see more feathering. You don't see a ton of feathering. Where you do, it's just a little. That's the stuff that's circled in green. Just a little bit of it. There's some woolliness to it, but yeah, not much feathering. That was encouraging. But there was a lot of near bleed. All the little red dots. Okay, granted, that's the step, but yeah. So when I saw so little feathering, I was excited, but then I realized how much bleed there was. Now this is absorbent paper. It sucks the ink in, makes it harder to wash out. So it is darker and it is there, but it did get a lot lighter, and it did kind of feather and explode, and it did dye the page. It would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. Next up is Mead Notebook Paper, where it took 1 second to dry. It seems to retain a little bit more of that brightness than it did on the 20-pound, but we didn't have this much feathering on the 20-pound paper, and I mean, I felt encouraged. I was like, oh, maybe we found its niche where this will go, but I mean, this is just an exaggerated version. But if you look at the Y in Yu-Yake, yeah, I mean, and okay, you can just look at the tornado. I mean, it's feathery. There's not a ton of spread, but this is nice. There's really not much bleed. There are a couple spots where it like wants to come through, but for the most part, no. In fact, okay, that's the stub, but even still, I would have expected more. So even though this is acidic ink, apparently it does okay on Mead. Except when you add water. It did feather and explode. We do see that separation of like the orange and the yellow, which is kind of amusing. It did get lighter. That would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. Lastly is Moleskine notebook paper, where it took 2.5 seconds to dry. You most definitely get a woolliness here. Yeah, and you get feathering. Yeah, there's a lot of near bleed, and this is a fine nib. It's one of my driest nibs. Water test, it's really, really light. It's exploding, and it's exploding in different colors. It would not be easy to recover. Yeah, so there's Yu-Yake. It's too troublesome for me. That's pretty much the end of it. I like Habanero. I've got a bottle of it. I like Apache Sunset. I've got a bottle of it. I really want to find an Iroshizuku I really like, because people are so into this stuff. I guess maybe I just haven't found my Iroshizuku yet. Oh my god. Listen to me. Anyways, if you love this ink, please tell me why. Please do not jump down my throat and say that I'm like insane or the devil. I really do want to understand why people love this ink, because so far in my experience I can't find it. So yeah, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your opinions for your consideration from the Triple N Network. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.